In 1894, two brothers made what is considered today the first true motion picture. These moving images capture the minds of those who watch them, and from that early beginning, movies have seized the attention of people from around the world. My earliest memories are full of watching movies with my father. It didn't matter the story, I was already in love with film. Over time, I learned the names of my favorite directors, and I realized that all of my idols were men. At first, I thought nothing of it, but once I started making films of my own, I began to question it. Where are all of the female filmmakers? Upon joining the film major at Grand Valley in 2010, I finally found my female peers. But it still didn't make any sense. From the ample supply of female filmmakers at college, why haven't I heard more about the professional ones? Feeling that their stories were a little underrepresented, I decided to give these women an opportunity to tell them.
I can't remember like an actual specific time where I was like, I want to go into film. It was just always an interest that I had. And growing up, I always wanted to be a pilot. And I learned that if you didn't have 20/20 vision, you can be a pilot. So I kind of just took the plunge and told my parents that I was going to go into film. They weren't exactly too happy about it.
Well, when I was very little, my dad would bring home cameras. He works at a university, and so he would bring home like giant VHS type cameras, and we would get to play around with those.
But I think what drew me to film actually was watching Pirates of the Caribbean, and that sounds so cliche because everybody always says that a movie inspired them to become a filmmaker, but that really is what happened to me.
I looked more into it and I saw that Grand Valley offered the summer film program, and I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And then I looked more into that and it was like, that's like a legitimate production. So I think that's kind of what sparked my interest in coming to Grand Valley.
I wasn't like young and wanting to be a filmmaker. I was kind of like pushed into it. It was my freshman year orientation, and I had my heart set on being a computer animator. And the student who was helping me, he was like, Grand Valley doesn't have that program, and I was so heartbroken. So this lady comes over to me and she's like, so I hear you're interested in computer animation. You know, we have an animation department, but I think you'd be a good fit for the film and video department.
I remember that one of the first questions people would ask, the professors would ask us when we'd go in, was, what does everyone want to do? And there would always be like, the handful of people who would always say, I want to be a DP, or I want to edit, I want to do production design or something, or produce. And then there would be like the few people who said that they wanted to be a director. I wanted to be a director, but I didn't want to say that I wanted to be a director because then I'd have to answer questions about it. So I would just say that I didn't know.
So I remember walking into Image and Sound, and I was one of the first people there. I'd gotten there kind of early to get settled in and everything. And then as more and more of the students came in, I noticed that there were a lot of guys coming into this class. And it wasn't something that really intimidated me. It had been something that I'd never really been aware of. So after all the students started coming in, there was me, another girl, who ended up continuing to be a film major, and then two other girls who dropped out. So there was about 4 of us in a class of 28.
When I got in there, I think my first goal was just to observe everybody, because I was thinking to myself, well, I don't want to be the stupid girl that says the stupid things and alienate people that could help me. And my thought definitely was, I bet the people that will help me will be men. Men are more technically inclined was just the path that I thought of. I was like, they'll know more about the things that I need help with, the things that I am most weak in.
I felt, this is weird, but I felt excited just because of the fact that I do like working with guys in the sense that they bring something different to the table versus the female mind. But I did notice that in most of my projects that I would work on, I would be the only girl in the group out of 4. That never really bothered me, but at the same time, I did feel a little sense of pressure to have to prove myself that I was good at what I was doing and that I knew what I was doing.
I felt like there was this understanding that the boys just knew what they were doing and the girls didn't know what they were doing, and I really didn't know what I was doing, and I was like, shit,
remember hearing rumors about how throughout your experience in the film department at Grand Valley that 15% of girls drop out every year, and like it's really rare if you're a girl to get to the end, and so it was just like this weird like rumor that was floating around. But then as you go throughout the years, you do notice that either girls drop out or more guys get in the class. I don't know how it worked out, but by the end, the girls in the class were the minority.
Being a woman in the film program, it's felt pretty equal, pretty comfortable. I haven't really encountered too many people or projects or anything of that nature that have made me feel uncomfortable necessarily, but there is still that stigma of this is a guy's world, and there's been times where I've went to like pick up C-stands or pick up lights or something like that, and a guy's come over and let me help you with that. It's like, I got it. It's a C-stand.
In 16-2, they were like, first day of class, you have a week to come up with a pitch. I remember being at the bar with like some of my friends in the class, and when we came up with this concept, and I went home and I wrote it, and I'm sitting in class, and everyone else is pitching theirs, and it's all like dramas and like serious films. And I'm sitting there with the most ridiculous comedy idea ever. It's about a scooter gang in the 90s, and it's a bunch of kids.
Back in the day, my gang and I lived the high life. Everyone knew we were the flyest group around. We were known as the Midnight Marauders.
But then once like production started happening, people, I guess, kind of lost confidence in whether I was able to direct it. People would literally ask me in my group, like, are you sure you want to direct it? Do you want to direct this film? I'm like, well, yeah, I wrote it. Like, I have a vision for it. And they're like, but you like to do art direction. You sure you just want to handle art direction? I'm like, no, I want to direct my film. And it was kind of like a really big like salt in the wound, like, oh, your film was great, but I don't think you can direct it.
You want to take it off first? Or?
Vinny, that we worked with, he was our DP. He had talked to the G&E department and the camera department, and at the beginning of the summer film project, Vinny had asked us to all buy stuff for a ditty bag. I bought most of it, and then there was a couple things that I didn't get around to buying, and it was maybe the second weekend of shooting. He was setting something up, and he needed, it was a fine point Sharpie, and Vinny's the type of personality that's very honest and blunt. So he asked me for the fine point Sharpie, and I'm like, I didn't get any, but I do have a regular Sharpie. And he looks at me and he goes, but I asked you to buy this whole list of stuff at the beginning of the semester, and you don't have it? What are you doing? I was just kind of like, I can get some tonight. He definitely did not treat me any different than a guy in my position. Like, he was annoyed that I didn't have the fine point Sharpie. He told me like it was. He was honest about it. Actually, I kind of appreciate that he treated me like, not that he was a jerk, but that he treated me how he would have with anyone else.
I also did my senior thesis, which was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first feature-length musical ever to be filmed as the thesis at Grand Valley. And that was a challenge.
My sister and I created a 40-minute musical film called For Love of Jazz. For 2 years we worked on this film, from the process of writing and recording all the music and doing all the shooting and editing and everything. It was really empowering to know that many of our department heads were women.
Didn't realize it at the time that was really how we had structured the crew, but once we were putting the credits together and we were in post and we were looking at things, we were like, wow.
That's most of the female film majors at Grand Valley who did work on the film.
It was just kind of like a moment of like satisfaction, like, wow, we've come a long way and we've done great for ourselves and we're extremely capable and we've made this incredible film that we can be really proud of.
I found GVTV at Campus Life Night, and I was like, that's awesome, I'm gonna join that. And then halfway through junior year, one of our current presidents stepped down. I decided I was gonna run for president, you know. I didn't really think anything of it, like people were gonna think like, oh, she can't do it because she's a girl. It didn't even cross my mind until I was at my internship one day, and I interned with like 2 other guys from the film major, and one of them mentioned something about the election. And it was right after I won the election, I was elected. And he goes, I don't know why anyone voted for you. A girl shouldn't be running the station. And I thought he was joking, so I like turned around at my desk to like look at him and be like, you're funny. But he just had the most serious look on his face. And I was just like, wait, what? He was like, I didn't vote for you. He's like, I don't think this is a position for a female. And I didn't even know what to do. And like the other kid just like didn't know what to say either. It was just such a blatant comment to me that I've experienced sexism before that, but nothing just so straight to my face, like you can't run a station purely because you're a girl. And so I was just like, oh, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I didn't know how to respond to it.